We are just a couple weeks from Bulls basketball, and right now the Chicago Bulls are being urged to trade for Nikola Vucevic replacement. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, at least right now, but is it a possibility? We're going to talk about it. And what could the Chicago Bulls do to improve on both ends of the floor? Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, plus a little bit more, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on another daily episode. So if you're tuned in, man, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. It's been some time. We've been waiting for some time to talk about Bulls basketball. We keeping the conversations going around here on Shy Bulls Podcast, but man, I cannot wait to see Bulls basketball. We are already in the early parts of the best time of the year, and we're getting closer and closer to where the best two sports are actively on at the same time. That is football and basketball. But in the meantime, in between time, let's get into today's topic. We're talking about the Chicago Bulls being urged to trade for Walker Kessler as a Nikola Vucevic replacement. And this is an idea that comes from Clutch Sports writers Rohan Brahmat. I hope I'm saying his name right. Excuse me on that. But what Rohan did, he released 3 trade targets for the Chicago Bulls. Somebody that'll give them a little bit of spark on the offensive side, Anthony Simons. Somebody that'll give them more help on the wing, well, as a wing defender and player, Jonathan Kuminga. And the ultimate Nikola Vucevic replacement that they feel, or he feels, is available to replace Nikola Vucevic in Walker Kessler. I get the Anthony Simon stuff. I get the Jonathan Kuminga stuff. I just don't necessarily see it happening, at least right now. I honestly don't really think that the Walker Kessler thing will be on the Bulls' radar, at least right now before the season starts. But it's something that could come up as we get through the season and head closer to January, where I can see maybe some conversations start to pick up. Now, my question to you all is, how would you feel if the Chicago Bulls trade for Walker Kessler and include Nikola Vucevic in said trade? Now, we already know if you trade for Walker Kessler, the Utah Jazz over there, they're going to be looking to acquire draft picks, first round draft picks from the Chicago Bulls. The question is, how many draft picks will it take to trade for a young big who's a shot blocking big, a rim defending big like Walker Kessler? I know it's not just going to be one first round pick. Will it have to be 2 first round picks and an inclusion of some second round picks will be the ultimate question. Let me know. But the reason I think that it will be a good idea is because the Bulls, or at least I want to see a changing of a template at the center spot. But if I'm looking at the Chicago Bulls organization in the front office that said that they want to have firm control of their assets moving forward, why would you relinquish some of these assets out to the Utah Jazz? Well, can we go out there and make a decision to say that there's a big that's going to come out of this draft this year or next year that's going to be able to provide the Chicago Bulls some stability right away as a big? That's a question that the Chicago Bulls have to figure out for themselves. Now, me personally, hey, hindsight is 2020. We was all right. We was all there. If you wasn't there and you're new to the world, welcome to the world of Chicago Bulls basketball. Simply because we could have drafted him. We could have drafted Walker Kessler, but instead we took Dalen Terry. These are some of the things or some of the decisions that come back to haunt the Chicago Bulls at certain points when you talk about who should they have selected, who they actually selected, And now who can come in and try to help this young Bulls team? So it's definitely something that I will entertain. But if I'm looking at from the aspect of the Chicago Bulls front office, I don't necessarily know that they want to give up draft picks for a young big. But what could be beneficial to them is that he's only 24 years old. You can absolutely run with a Walker Kessler as your defensive big or your quote unquote defensive anchor for years and years and years to come. Matas Buzelis, very young. Josh Giddey, only 22 years of age right now. Walker Kessler, 24 years of age, can come in and run with these guys. But I think that right now I'm banking on, and I'm saying that the Chicago Bulls probably want to wait and see how good this young team can go out there and mesh together. They want to probably see what Josh Giddey is going to look like at the start of the season, see if Coby White is now taking another step forward, see if Matas Buzelis can come in and fill the void, and maybe see a little bit out of the other players that they re-signed or picked up. You know, your Isaac Okoros, your Trey Jones, see how Ayo Dosunmu comes back from injury, and then see the how over the course of a couple weeks how Noah Essengate is developing. I don't anticipate seeing a lot of Noah Essengate in NBA basketball, but I can say that I believe that the Chicago Bulls are going to be gauging the performance of Noah Essengate when they send him down to the G League, or they're going to be looking at Noah Essengate on how he looks, you know, in preseason, things like that. So I think that this could be an option on the table for the Chicago Bulls, but there is a number of factors that are going to play into this to help us determine if this is a move that the Chicago Bulls want to make or at least be interested in. Because we know as Chicago Bulls fans that the Chicago Bulls typically overvalue their players, but we know the Utah Jazz typically stand on business, and they want their draft picks and they want to build this thing up. Me, on the flip side, I'm asking the Utah Jazz, what are y'all really doing? Are y'all really trying to build up a playoff contending team in the West, or y'all just want to keep stockpiling draft picks, which could be beneficial in a way? But what about the fans that constantly go out there and support the Utah Jazz, and every single time you get a solid player, you kind of just, we going to just move them on to the side? What will a Walker Kessler trade mean for the Utah Jazz? And how does that pan out for a guy that's a veteran on their team and Larry Marketing? I'm pretty sure who's tired of losing. I'm pretty sure he's tired of losing around there. So how do you build around him to keep him engaged? Or are you just wiping the slate clean again, stockpiling more draft picks until you feel like you have that superstar in the building? Or what's the plan from the Utah Jazz? Not necessarily my business, but when it comes to intertwining the business of the Utah Jazz and looking at the Chicago Bulls and how they all can come together to see what can transpire out of this, it's going to be interesting to see how both organizations move. Now, it sounds really, really good. Not even going to hold you, but I don't necessarily see this happening before the start of the season. This is something that is probably in the premature stages of dialogue, and I think it could be something that can be revisited around January or February before the NBA trade deadline. So we'll see what happens with that. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but again, it all comes down to the process from the front office, because I ain't even gonna lie to you, and y'all stop me if it sounds too damn crazy. I honestly believe that these guys, if they see Noah Essengate grow again, let's just say he already big as hell, just a little lanky, need to put on some weight, but if he grows again, and we know he has some tools on the defensive side that can help this Chicago Bulls team, I wouldn't be surprised if they say he's the center. That's just me. Let me know if I'm off Morocco. Let me know if the coffee hitting too hard. Let me know. Somebody got to let me know something. Can you see the Chicago Bulls saying Noah Essengate, go be our center? I'm just saying. Just let me know if I'm going too far with that. Just let me know. But hey, before we get up out of here, let's talk about if the Chicago Bulls can actually improve on both sides of the floor. It's going to come down to a number of things if you're the Chicago Bulls, if we keeping it real. Now, if we looking at last season, we looking at the Chicago Bulls ranking 20th in offensive rating with a rating about, not exact number, 113. Then the 19th, they were 19th in defensive rating with about 114. You know what I'm saying? So how can the Chicago Bulls improve in those two regards? Well, when I look at that improvement, I need to see Josh Giddey continue to be Josh Giddey that we seen after January. I need that for an entire season. I need my man's Coby White to continue to be Coby White, but also accept the challenge of taking a step forward. I need the inclusion of Matas Buzelis being involved in his offense. And if guys are going out there getting minutes on the offensive side of the ball, we need them to help and assist with putting in points and getting rebounds and assisting and taking care of the basketball. We need all guys involved, but I think it's going to be really, really centered around both of my point guards and Trey Jones and Josh Giddey, and the support around the team. The guys that are expected to have an impact need to have an impact. That's Josh. That's Coby. That's Matas. That's Vooch. So on and so forth. Everybody should have their hands in helping this team be a good team offensively. Now, the challenges on defense is a little bit more. It's something that we'll have to have a lot more conversation about, simply because we know Josh Giddey is not an elite defender. Good at times, but not elite. We know Coby White is not an elite defender. Good at times, but not elite. Now, but we do know that Trey Jones can come in off the bench, run with that second unit, help the Chicago Bulls in that regard. We know that Ayo Dosunmu, if he has to run with the starters, he can possibly do that. If he comes off the bench, we know he's capable. We know he can be a force in that regard. We look at Isaac Okoro. This is probably the Bulls' best perimeter defender, at least right now, before we even see games being played. So the biggest thing is, or at least the biggest factor, I think is going to come from, number one, my wings, and then my bigs. What does Nikola Vucevic do well enough this season to help the Chicago Bulls not be the Soul Train line to the basket? We didn't been through this, and I'm not trying to go on a Nikola Vucevic rant, but we've been through this. We've seen teams take advantage of the Chicago Bulls in pick and roll because Nikola Vucevic, whether it's coaching, whether it's on himself, plays a lot of drop coverage. Not necessarily a shot blocker. So how can Nikola Vucevic help in that regard? And then guys that are going to come in and back up Nikola Vucevic. You're Jalen Smith. You're Zach Collins. What are you going to bring to the table to where we can see some type of uptick in defensive rating to where you're not 19th? I don't expect the Chicago Bulls to be the best defense in the league. I think that's way over top. But what I can say is you guys can accept the challenge of being better on a defensive side. And I think that's a pride thing. That's an effort thing. That's an energy thing. That's a team and communication thing that the Chicago Bulls can build on if everybody's locked in. I think right now you have Matas Buzelis, who's a good weak side defender. And I think he's solid on ball. And I think he's only going to get better in that regard as he ages and understands the game a lot more. If Isaac Okoro is placed as the starter, he can come in and then go out there and help with wing defense. And we got to see if Josh Giddey is going to make himself or continue to be respectable on the defensive end. And Coby White, we don't need no lapses on defense. No lapses, no major lapses. I'm just saying. But it has to be a team thing. One string and pull, baby. Push and pull, push and pull, push and pull. Communication is something that's going to be key for this team defensively. Like, for an example, when Lonzo Ball was here, obviously he was a good damn defender, obviously. But two of the best things that we can point to with Lonzo Ball and why he was so good defensively is because of his IQ and his communication. Communication will be key for guys that are not so great as one-on-one defenders. Would there be opportunities for players to score on these guys? Absolutely. But what happens when Josh Giddey gets blown by? Who comes help out with that You know what I'm saying? Do you close out correctly? Do you rotate correctly? It's going to be a major, major thing for the Chicago Bulls team. Again, I am not expecting this team to go out there and be top 5 in defense or top 5 in offense. But how can you go out there as an offense and a defense to not be 20th or 19th? Can you get to 15? Can you get into knocking on the top 10? I think that'll do wonders for the Chicago Bulls. I think that will help them exceed expectations. But we shall see. It is not on us. It is absolutely on them. But that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. Before you get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell. Hit that bell. Let us know how y'all feeling about all things discussed today as well. But hey, I appreciate y'all. Make sure you always see red, and y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next for sure. Peace, y'all.
Cognac.